Welcome, everybody, to another fantabulous episode of the Game Informer Show. This is the show where we inform you about games. As always, I'm your host, Ben Reeves. I'm here on this journey with you today because we have Dan Tack.
Hi.
Hello, sir. You're fantastic. What is that contraption next to you? The
Which
weird
thing?
Dr. Seuss arm.
What?
The little purple striped thing, the red and white striped thing.
Oh, the Keyblade, yeah.
Great podcasting here.
This is from Kingdom Hearts 2.
Oh,
This is the Keyblade from Halloween Town / Christmas Town in Kingdom Hearts 2.
Awesome.
Careful with that.
It's foam. So
it's not a toy. Yeah, careful.
This is actually a toy.
And from the kingdom of my heart, Andrew Reiner, how's it going?
Oh, Ben Reeves, you're in my heart too. Good to see you.
Great. I don't know if that's healthy or not, but Alex Van Aken is rounding out the quadruple.
Hello. It's me,
Great.
rounding out the quadruple.
That's right. We have a good show for you guys today. You ready for this one? We're going to talk about a bunch of cool games. We got Subnautica Below Zero, Ratchet Clank Rift Apart. Might talk about a few other games. Some little wine game called 100 Days that Dan's excited, hopefully, to talk about. But at the end of the show, I want to tease this too. We have an interview with Justin Roiland. He's one of the co-creators of shows like Rick and Morty and Solar Opposites. He's also the CEO of Squanch Games. You guys might remember they created Trover Saves the Universe a couple years ago, which is a really interesting VR game that you can play in or out of VR. Very funny game. Justin talks about what the recording sessions for that game were, which sounds like they were just extended improv sessions, which is kind of fun. And he also talked about how he changed the name of his company so he wouldn't get sued by Nintendo. So all that and more to look forward to in that interview at the end of the show. But first, let's kick it off with our playlist where we talk about the games we're playing these days. Andrew, you want to go first? What have you been playing?
I have been playing a little game called Subnautica Below Zero. Bum bum bum.
Whoa, this is sort of like, it's not DLC, right? It's kind of like a full standalone package, but it's an extension of Subnautica.
So it's weird. It kind of started out like it was going to be DLC. You remember it went early access in like 2019. You know, I probably played 30 hours of this game over the years, the last couple of years. I just love the Subnautica games, and this kind of evolved over time into a full standalone sequel. That's really, like, after playing through it again, like, it really does feel like the next evolution of what Subnautica was.
Yeah, and Subnautica, for those who maybe don't know, it's basically a survival crafting game, except you're stuck in the ocean. Is that good?
You're in an alien ocean, so it's a sci-fi discovery game, I would say. There's a lot of survival mechanics. You're right. You need to keep yourself well hydrated and fed, and you got to maintain your air when you're underwater, and you got to build craft components that will help you stay out there longer. That all the telltale marks of a survival game are there. What Below Zero does with them is takes away the stress and just kind of the bother that comes with it.
Chills it out a little bit.
It does, yeah. And you know, just one good example of this is just right from the outset of play. If you remember in the first Subnautica, you crash land on an alien planet and you're in your habitat and everything's broken. Everything's sparking, and immediately you're tasked to just repair everything. Like, well, you just need to take care of that first, right? That's your focus. In Below Zero, you crash land on an alien planet. Surprise, surprise.
When is this
similar
guy gonna
setup?
learn?
Well, now it's a different protagonist, and it actually ties in with that other story. But yeah, you play as Robin, a xenologist, but you crash land and you're in your habitat and everything's working. Everything's fine. And so you just go out into the waters and start exploring and paving your own path. And they really embrace player freedom through the whole experience. Like, yes, you're going to want a better O2 tank so you can stay underwater longer. Yes, you're going to want vehicles. Yes, you're going to want to find all the materials you can to build your own habitats, you know, deeper in the ocean or the sea. Those are things that still remain there as goals, but they just kind of ease you into it. And there's a really nice sci-fi story in this now. There's spoken dialogue, other characters you'll meet along the way. And they do a great job of subtly telling you where to go. this is just an open ocean that you're in and you're just going where you want, but you'll start hearing like strange technological sounds under the ocean. And you kind of follow that, and then it kind of takes you into these caverns, into something. I don't want to give away the secrets, but you see something that should not be here, and it's very crazy. And you go inside and you have a big story moment. And that story moment could greatly affect your standing in the world. And I'll give you one example. There's this creature in Subnautica Below Zero called a sea monkey. Ben, you might have had some of those when you were a little boy, or maybe last week. Who knows? Yeah. Or
let me
maybe
check
still
on
have
them.
them.
They might be dead.
So they're big though. They're kind of humanoid. They got hands and they could play around with stuff, and they're very curious of you. When you're out in the sea with them, if you start using your technology around them, like a scanner or something, they'll come and take it from you. And that sucks because you built that thing, right? And they'll go take off, and you're like trying to hit them with your knife, like, give me that back. But after I did one of those story beats where I heard like some kind of technological sound, I followed it. All of a sudden, I came out a different person, and the sea monkeys now respected me and had a different standing with me, and they would actually go and fetch minerals and supplies for me. So right there, through a story moment, the world changed in a dynamic way and just kind of it became something different. And that's what Subnautica Below Zero is all about, is discovery, making meaningful connections with the world and the sea, and that benefits you in a great way. And I died a bunch in the first Subnautica. This one I didn't die too many times. It just felt like a more balanced and fair survival experience. You got to keep your eye on all those things still, right?
Yeah.
If you're underwater sitting on the seabed and you're like in your menus tinkering around, all of a sudden you come out of your menu and it's like you're out of oxygen and you just die. That stuff can still happen. So you got to be very mindful of what you're doing.
Well, the first one had like some subtle horror vibes to it too.
Oh,
didn't it?
those are still
scary
here
at times. Okay.
Some of the best jump scares ever, and they're not even scripted, right? Like you'll just be in your, a little submersible or just flippers, just swimming away, just looking for supplies, maybe try to find some gold or silver that you can use to craft something meaningful. And then all of a sudden, out of the deep, just the blackness of the sea comes this giant creature.
Oh, I got shivers.
Right?
Yeah.
But yeah, it seriously is just like absolutely terrifying at times. And you just don't know when it's gonna happen. You'll hear creatures, and you're like, okay, that sounded close. I'm a little scared. But a lot of times you'll just be going into those darkened waters, just that subtle, flashlight in front of you, bubbles kind of going past you or whatever, little things in the water, and all of a sudden just teeth, and you just, oh my God, your body will make sounds you didn't even know you were capable of, just screeches that do not make sense. But
it's a good month for horror fans apparently.
Yeah,
Alex,
there's no build up on them. Like jump scares usually it's like audio cues or whatever. This is just I'm in the habitat and it just happened. And this thing is hungry and I'm in the same area as it, and it's gonna come.
Sounds great for Jaws fans. Check this out, Alex. You've been playing this too, right?
Yeah. I was a big fan of the first Subnautica. I have a mild thalassophobia. I'll go and swim in the ocean and stuff at the beach, but like, you put me in a game like this where there is like dark water, where I'm not sure what's like behind the veil of the sea. It's stressful, and but what I really love about the Subnautica series and Below Zero as well, Reiner's definitely way further than me, but they always start you off in the shallows, like this very peaceful, serene part of the sea, and you kind of like, for lack of a better word, you get your sea legs, right? And you start, building up, okay, I need a scanner, I need a knife, I need a flashlight. And you kind of have this safe area to start building up your equipment. And then you're like, well, now I need to get, I want to get the sea glider or whatever. And so you kind of start like inching a little bit further past the safe area and to the darker and deeper parts of the water. And you start encountering new fish, or new creatures rather. And they get, a little more terrifying as you go. But Subnautica, both games, and especially Below Zero, like you always have that carrot on a stick of like, okay, if I'm willing to take the chance and to kind of push a little deeper, then I'm going to get that carrot on the end of the stick. And something might come out and eat me, but if I survive and I make it back, I'm going to be able to craft this new exciting thing that's going to kind of change the ways that I interact with the world. And that's what I love about Subnautica. Even if I am a little scared of the ocean, especially the first game, some of those creatures were horrifying. And so I'm eager to see what Below Zero has waiting for me in the later hours of the game. But it's really cool. Even if you're like me, you're a little, trepidatious about like horror games and also the ocean, I think it's still worth it because they really do such a good job of kind of, there's that allure of progression, like with all of, the best survival games. And it's really, really cool. I dig it a lot.
Sure.
And there's, Ben, there's on foot sections too.
What? Now I'm sold.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not
You get to
water, but
you get to get out of the water and,
yeah.
yeah. And they do, it's minimal, the time you do this, but it is effective, getting out of the water and just jumping up on an iceberg and there's like some alien penguins there and you're like, hello. Or other times you jump out of the water and there's like a settlement there and you're like, whoa, what's this about? And you go inside and it's like, just filled with discoveries, things that you can scan, that you can create blueprints of for your own base. You have those big moments of eureka moments of like, oh, this is awesome. You're just walking around and scanning and interacting. You get some vehicle play later on, but like the on foot stuff is just, it changes it up and in a good way. You just don't expect a lot of gameplay there.
Yeah. This is such a boring question, so please don't fall asleep. But is this a game where people should play the original Subnautica, or is Below Zero kind of a good place to jump in?
It's a good place to jump in because it's a better game. It's a better designed game. It's more fair, but it does have connected narrative tissue to the first game that is actually pretty cool. That I'm glad I played the first game and learned about the character there and their corporation and all that stuff because it pays off here. So yeah, I think you do want to play the first one, Subnautica, and then go into Below Zero. And I think on Switch they're selling them as a bundle or something. Whereas Subnautica's been out forever on every other system.
Yeah, it's awesome. Well, yeah, it comes out like you said on the Switch and pretty much everything else. I think PC, other two consoles on the 14th.
Yeah, Friday.
Yep.
Friday?
Yeah. And your review will probably be up by that point, if not earlier.
It's up.
Would you?
Yeah.
Oh, it's up now. Go read it. What are you waiting?
9 out of 10.
9 out of 10. That's so good.
Loved it.
Yeah, there's some good games to play. Subnautica Below Zero. Go check it out. Reiner, you been checking anything else out?
Just the typical multiplayer games I keep playing. And Res Evil Village. Jumped into that.
You liking that?
As you said, good time for horror fans. I do. I really like the vibe they established. Ethan, he needs to wise up a little bit in the next installment if he comes back. But yeah, it's cool. I like the new creatures and direction they're going in, and I love how Capcom keeps changing up the script with each new installment and taking chances. And it doesn't. This series doesn't feel stale at all. I love that.
Yeah.
I'm finally making my way through it too. I helped out with some of the video review footage for the video review we did, but I kind of went back to the game. I wasn't sure if I was going to keep playing because I got super stressed out in the castle area of that game, but I beat the first boss last night. And I was like, okay, I'm in. Like, this is that game not only delivers like all of the atmosphere and the horror elements, but like some of those bigger moments have like so much spectacle. Really fun.
Hey guys, have you noticed how Alex is playing the same games as me and now starting to wear the same hat and clothing as me?
Whoa.
What the heck, dude?
Ryan, I can take the hat off.
I just want to call it out here,
Yeah.
Get it on record.
I'm gonna be painting my background blue too.
It's Capcom. Speaking of
right?
Resident Evil. Yeah.
Yeah. And Alex, didn't you say you wanted me to call you Alex Reiner?
Yeah, I did. That was supposed to be private.
I thought that was interesting when you.
That was supposed to be private. That.
Yeah. Okay.
You didn't have to air out my dirty laundry on the podcast, but yeah, I would like you to call me Alex Reiner going forward.
I'm sorry. I'll get you those medications too that you asked for. The blood medication
we'll do.
Stuff. Yeah, I'll get that for you.
Gotcha.
Okay. Speaking of, Alex, anything else you've been playing other than Resident Evil?
Mostly just Resident Evil and Subnautica, to be honest. I've been playing a little bit of Turnip Boy. We did a new gameplay today on that earlier in the week. That's been like my go-to, when I'm winding down in the evening, watching a little, I've been watching Euphoria on HBO. So that's a very stressful show. So I want to go to bed, and just relax. And so I pull up Turnip Boy, and it's a little cute pixel art adventure game reminiscent of, Moonlighter, Binding of Isaac, the obvious one, Zelda, Link to the Past. And it's just a fun little irreverent game. The writing is very based in internet humor, which can be hit or miss for a lot of people. So, but it's, it's very self-aware and just doesn't take itself seriously whatsoever. And I'm enjoying it, just kind of going and getting into little, boss fights and solving little easy puzzles. It's a good time. It's $14.99. Get it on Switch and Steam. But yeah, that's pretty much what I've been playing.
Yeah, that does look pretty cool. I do like the art style, which is worth checking out. And it has some, like you said, serious Zelda vibes, but I don't think it's as long. So if you're
it's about 2.5 hours long.
Zelda, yeah, if you want that classic, top-down Zelda experience, maybe check that one out. Turnip Boy Tax Evasion. What is the full title?
Turnip Boy Commits Tax Evasion. Yeah.
Turnip Boy Commits Tax Evasion. Perfect.
Yeah, it's a very dumb game. But I love it.
And not to be outdone, what have you been up to?
Well, I've got some old, some new. Where do you want to start, Ben?
What's old?
Oh, I'm playing through Yakuza 0 right now, trying to get myself acclimated to the Yakuza series.
Oh, that old. I didn't know.
Yeah.
So this is your first Yakuza game?
Second. So I played 7. This is my first brawler Yakuza game. Yeah.
You liking it?
Yeah, it feels a lot like all those zany mini games, man. Like it's just like, hey, here's a batting cage. Hey, here's bowling. Why not? It's just like a really, really interesting sort of celebration of like open world not taking itself seriously at all, right?
Yeah.
You just go around town, beat the crap out of people with bikes and whatever you can find, right? Whatever isn't nailed down is a battle object, and it's just so over the top and outrageous. It's like, it's fun. I can see why those games have been so popular. I can't believe I missed them for so long.
You think you're going to go through the whole series?
Oh, I don't know about that, but we'll get. I'm really curious to see the future of the series. Actually, I think I like it more when it's turn-based.
Yeah.
I still think it's cool, but I really love 7.
Yeah, you should check out Judgment too. I'm still working my way through that, and I'm having a blast. So, I also heard you were trying to build a winery.
Okay, that's one thing. We can do that next. This game should be out today, I think. It's called 100 Days Winemaking Simulator. I mean, and that is really the description of the game. I had no idea what I was getting into for this.
I was gonna be
like Sim Wine or like Sim City meets, a wine, some kind of wine simulation. But this is a very enthusiast wine game, okay? It's not just like you click on things and make things, like bars fill up like in other sim games. This is like, you've got to like pick the right soil, pick the right time to like cut the vines. You've got to crush the grapes. You've got to pick the tannins. I don't even know if that's correct. Whoever made this game knows a lot about making wine.
Biff Tannen is in this game?
Yeah, that's good. That's very good.
What is the right dirt?
That's a great question,
Or
Ryan.
what's top tier dirt?
Yeah, you have to you do soil analysis on the dirt before you're like, okay, if I plant it here, then this is going to affect the acidity, and you take every step of this. Like, I haven't done like complete research on this, but I think the creator of this game actually is a wine making person. Like, actually, the story of this game is based on a real life example where somebody inherited a winery or something, and like had to learn how to make wine.
What if it's just all made up? Just like
I don't know. I heard about tannins before. Throw that in there.
It's like very advanced gamification of winemaking. Like, they really thought of like every aspect. I'm still learning a lot about making wine from this game. Like yeast, bacteria. I'm talking like every little minuscule aspect. It's not just like, hey, make grapes, harvest grapes. It's like you control every minute aspect of the winemaking process from soil to sale, essentially. So if you're into wine, this might be a cool game for you. It's very slow paced. It's very laid back.
Hey, what does the name mean to this? do you have 100 days to make like a
They
top
haven't
tier
put a-
wine or?
That may be, they haven't really given me an ultimatum in that regard yet. You just kind of go through the seasons. I don't.
Maybe that's like the typical
You are going
process of
through
wine.
days.
You are going through. You go through seasons, but I don't know like what the aspect of 100 days has to do with it yet. Maybe
I'm
I just
guessing that's how long it takes to turn grape juice into wine.
Yeah.
That's a bit of a guess, but based on my beer making knowledge, it sounds good to me.
I may have missed that conversation. There's a lot of people you talk to in this, like in the campaign section. There's like a kind of a story about you're in a very boring office job. All of a sudden, one day, boom, you're gonna become the manager of this winery and live in this little villa. And
Are there puzzle elements to this? Because it looked like each item you had was kind of like a puzzle shape that you're trying to fit together.
Like Tetris blocks, essentially, so if you can do different activities at the same time, if you can get them blocked together in the space. So there is a puzzle element to it, but a lot of it is really macro management and micromanagement of each aspect of the wine. I mean, all the way down to like bottle type and marketing. Like you're picking all these. It's just absurd. It's like this is the full scale winery. Okay,
You get to name your winery.
you get. I don't think I named mine, but I think you can. Yes,
Do you get to name your wine?
I always go with the default. Yeah, I think you can do that too. I always do. I never.
Come on,
Okay,
Dan.
those of you who have seen me do character customization, I just go with the default. I always go with the default.
I want to
You get
know
to name-
what the top
do get to name
tier
your winery.
untapped wine is going to be called if it ever makes it to retail.
Okay, so I do recall. I did make. You do get to name it. I think. God, I played
What's
so
the
many
best
games.
wine, Dan?
I haven't found it yet, Reeves. But when I do, I'll let you know. Like I said, I've only played it for I'm like an hour or two in, and
Okay.
it's again, it's very. I was expecting something very different. Just like I played tons of simulation games. I think we all have here, but this one just like really, really dials deep. Like this, if
Seems
you're into
cool.
wine, this is a game for you.
The art and
You guys
animation
know-
looks pretty lovely too.
The art and animation does look cool. I'm curious to check this one out. It does sound like it's pretty deep though, so maybe only apply if you're like a hardcore sim
Yeah.
person.
It's kind of like a pop-up book. It does look nice and everything, but it's very, again, I guess if you want a really chill experience, either that or you're a hardcore wine micromanagement expert, that's the other person this would appeal to. It's really, I just don't know about this one yet, as far as my own personal liking, but I can definitely recommend it to wine enthusiasts. You'll get to know a lot. Even if you just want to learn a little bit about making wine, it's good for that, like edutainment-wise, because it's very thorough.
Do you guys know what you would call your wineries if you had one?
100%. Yeah.
Don't leave us hanging.
It's
It's a dream.
In any farming game, Stardew Valley, whatever. It's always in Stardew's Dandy Banjo Ranch. In 100 Days, it'd be Dandy Banjo Vineyards. It's cheesy, but it makes me feel good.
I think if I owned a winery, I'd want to diversify a bit. I think I'd try to make some like cereal or something. I can make like
Cereal. Wine and cereal.
Winos. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
There you
Nobody's
go.
ever
I
tried
knew it was
that, right?
coming. That's
Nobody's
good.
ever
That's
tried
good,
that.
Maurice.
Wine cereal. If
Yeah.
somebody knows that exists, I'd love to see it.
I doubt it.
Well, I think we have brought us up to speed, and now we're ready to move on to the next segment.
Reeves, I
of
got
the
another
show.
game we got to talk about real quick.
Well, isn't that a preview?
Yes.
It's a little segment I like to call Room to a Preview, where we talk about new upcoming games. Dan and Reiner, I believe you guys both got to check out some new exciting games, right?
Mm-hmm.
Who wants to go first? Who's more excited about the game?
Dan jumped in front of line
Yeah,
already.
it does seem
So
like Dan's.
I
very
didn't know we
excited.
separated. I haven't done the show in a couple weeks. So I didn't know we separated previews and what. Okay, I got it. Whatever. We're cool.
What do you want to talk about, Dan?
I would like to talk about Scarlet Nexus, which I had a chance to do over an hour of hands-on with the other day. This is a game that I was honestly not too excited about. I thought it was going to be like, it's a JRPG. I know exactly what to expect from this game by looking at what we've seen, from trailers and stuff. Having played it, I am way more excited about this game.
Really?
This is an action JRPG. A lot of the aspects about it, you'd be right to just say, "Oh, yep, that's JRPG," right? You go from fight to fight, you smash stuff. There's a relationship system, kind of like Persona, to advance your your ties and links with other characters.
It looks anime as hell.
It is
like
extremely anime.
Yeah.
But what sold me after getting hands-on on this game and why I'm really excited about it now is the combat. The combat is in-depth, really feels great. It feels kinetic, which is really quite the task for this game because it involves psychokinetic powers. So you're not just slinging you can just like pick up random cars and other scenery and throw them at people. But like there's also an interactive aspect to this, like where let's say I pick up a car and break it into two halves in the air and then swing them both together onto the dude. I'll have to like take the thumbsticks and push them together toward each other. So it's like it's creating this feeling that you're actually doing these movement loops with the things that you're interacting with. It's actually really cool. Like having just played through Kingdom Hearts 2 Critical Mode recently, and I considered that a really great action RPG, I could feel a lot of the same elements here. Like this is a very precise action ARPG with like lots of really cool anime. If you're into anime, double bonus, right? But if you're not, and you're just into action RPGs, I think there's something here for sure.
So you're saying playing Kingdom Hearts helped you recognize what a good game looked like?
Kingdom Hearts 2 Critical Action Mode. Critical is like one of the best action RPGs I've ever played. I think it really challenges you and makes you take full context of everything you have, which is kind of like this game. Not only can you lift up cars and other pieces, like there was a great boss fight I got to do where I was just pulling down steel girders from the top of a roof on top of it, and it's just like it feels very good and it looks very good if you're into anime. And you also have like these sidekick characters that you can call in for various effects, like the equivalent of bullet time or charge up your weapon with flame, or there's all kinds of stuff. And I just wanted to keep playing and figuring out all these new mechanics. And at the start it's like, okay, you got a sword, you got to jump, you got to dash, you get it. Everybody's like, okay, all right, I'm just going to keep hitting this button and win the game. But no, there's a ton of different action elements that go into it, and I'm really excited to see more past the sort of, I got to play basically through the entire beginning of the game.
Sure. That's cool. I mean, it sounds cool. Like I am interested in this game just from visuals alone because it looks so striking. How's the voice acting in this game? Is it what you expect?
It's what you'd expect. Yeah,
it's grating maybe.
Not non-distinguishable from many other action JRPGs out there. It was as expected, so not bad. But I wasn't like whoa, this is some great action, great voice acting. It didn't strike me as that.
Does that game have a release date yet? I think it's sometime this year, right?
Yeah, it's this year.
Mm-hmm. Hopefully soon. Well, all right. Well, stay tuned for more on Scarlet Nexus. Looks cool. I'm into it.
It does.
Reiner?
I am now. I am like really into it. Like this has become my most anticipated game of the year.
Whoa!
Really?
Wow. Why didn't you lead with that?
I didn't want to I'm not trying to I'm just saying that
you just did.
The combat felt really good, Reiner.
Wow. All right. From Dan himself, it's got to be good. Reiner, you had something to talk about as well. You played an exciting game that could be
I didn't
on
play
top 10 lists. Oh, not play it. To clarify.
Yeah, I saw someone
you did
play
get a good look at it.
Yeah, Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart exclusively for PlayStation 5. And I got to tell you, these next-gen console exclusives, smoking in terms of visuals and performance and how fast they can load in content on the fly and how big and meaningful those streaming loads can be. Like it's a technical juggernaut from what I saw. It's still like the Ratchet and Clank and love. The second he's on screen and he's swinging his wrench and hitting the boxes, you're just like nostalgic, right? You're like, okay, I understand. And he's doing his side jump and Clank's being used with a little flotation device, right? Like with the spinning blades and all that feels like decades worth of Ratchet and Clank. Everything they've done just kind of jammed into the gameplay. But everything around it, the scale of everything that you see, thousands of people like in roaring crowds around you, giant Godzilla-sized robots that you're like interacting with and like rail sliding across their shoulders. And it's crazy. There's moments that it reminded me of like Uncharted 4 with like a level crumbling around Ratchet and Clank, as they're just platforming. It really is impressive what I saw. And they said they're treating it, in the past, they would create levels in a linear fashion, on a technology side. Now with the PlayStation 5, they're creating them with like the streaming of open worlds and they're able to stream it so fast and have new stuff in front of you, even though there's nothing behind you. The second you turn around, it's there, right? Like the technology and speed of PlayStation 5 is really a difference maker here in how they create their levels, and they're able to do so much more in them now just because of the added power.
Wow, that's interesting. And then obviously that tech allows you to like warp to different levels or different areas in the level.
Pull in complete different environments. We saw one example of I think it's like a parallel world where it's the same world but two different realities. And so you hit a lever in the level, with your wrench, and in the time it takes to hit it, the alternate version pops in. And it could be dramatically different, right? Like you see similar structures, but maybe one's war torn and the other's peaceful, right? Like you use that for gameplay and puzzle solving. Like, okay, I need to go back to this one, kind of like Link to the Past, right? Like going between the two realities. They have that in certain areas. New playable character, Rivet, which is, kind of the alternate dimension version of Ratchet. She's never had a Clank with her, so she's always been alone. She's very different in terms of how she sees the universe and all that stuff. Her dimension is not as peaceful, even though Ratchet and Clank have saved the galaxy time and time again. She's been in war her whole life, and is battle hardened from that. So gameplay is going to bounce between these two characters as you move from world to world. It's narratively based or world based who you get to play as. You're not switching them on the fly, even though they do share the same experience points, weapon advancements, all that stuff. That's universal, which I think is a smart move on their part. But yeah, I just can't. I can't say enough about just the visuals that were on display in this, and just how great it looks. It even has like those Spider-Man. They learned some lessons from Spider-Man. Those story sequences that are cut right into the action. Just on the fly. Like you get a little bit of story of beat or some development of action, and then you're back to playing it again. That's sewn into this game now too. The controller they talked about. They're doing what Returnal did with the pull through. So, you pull in a little, you have standard fire, and let's say that's more precise, but a slower delivery of your main pistol. Pull it all the way through. It's faster, but less precise, right? Like, so there's different, every gun has like two variations. They're doing 3D audio, all sorts of stuff, like charging a weapon. If you pull it halfway, this is a great solution for charging, in the past where you might have to like hold L2 and R2 and then release L2 or whatever to fire. This one, you just kind of pull the trigger in halfway. And then if you wanted to, you feel it tense up, and then if you pull through it fires, but you can also just release it. If you don't want to fire that gun, just reduce the charge or whatever. Just some really interesting solutions using that new controller, the DualSense controller, to make the weapons more dynamic than they already were. And the series is known for its weapons.
For sure. What was the coolest weapon you saw?
A topiary. I don't know if I'm saying that right. Topiary glove, where you throw out kind of a grenade and it turns an enemy into, like a manicured garden display plant thing. But it freezes them. So, their body instantly has vines, and it's really cool seeing the vines and flowers and stuff like just kind of grow on every enemy in whatever pose you caught them in. And you can even do that on big bosses. But then they're frozen for, 4 or 5 seconds, and you just unload on them. And then, the vines, explode or whatever. And then they're back to action. But yeah, that was the coolest thing.
We've been wondering this for weeks. Did they finally give you the goods, give you any details on, is that name Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart a play on Ripped a Fart?
I mean, knowing this series with a character like Skid McMarks or whatever, like probably.
Yeah. We got to ask the tough questions.
Or
here, so.
Quest. What are some of the other names?
Quest for Booty. Wasn't that what it's called? Yeah.
Highbrow humor in Ratchet and Clank.
Classy humor. That's what I like to think of it as. Well, that game sounds awesome. It's
it's right around the corner.
Yeah, comes out June 11th for the PS5. I'm a huge Ratchet & Clank fan, so I'm looking forward to this one. It's my next big game of the summer. So stay tuned for the full review in the coming weeks. I think that closes out our Room to a Preview section of the show. Thanks, you guys, for being on. Ryder, I know you got to run, but thanks for your time. We'll take a little bit of a break here, and then we'll come back for some emails. That sound good?
Yeah.
Great. Welcome back, everybody, to the Game Informer Show. We're here to answer a few emails. We have Dan and Alex still here, and then Blake decided to join. Blake Hester, how's it going?
Just rolling through. What's up, Ben? Shouts out to Derek.
Oh, what up, Derek? You know who you are. You're Derek. Well, we're here to answer some emails. What kind of emails do you like getting, Blake?
Preferably ones I don't have to respond to.
Well, we'll see if we got any of those. I think people want your response. Yeah, people can send these to podcast@gameinformer.com if you're interested in sending us a question or game or basically anything that Blake doesn't have to respond to. We love those. All right, this first email comes in from Zach from Tulsa. Quick and simple. What is a lore tidbit or fan theory that changed how you viewed a game or a character? Specifically, I would love Blake to address this one.
Lord, man, I'm such not a lore person. So hard. I don't know.
The one thing that comes to mind for me is this is more of a, well, this is a fan theory, which is what they asked for. So but I don't necessarily think it's what the developers intended, but do you guys know Majora's Mask? That fan theory that Link is basically dead. Is that what it is? And like he's going through the stages of grief, like all the mess.
Oh, I have heard this. Yes.
Yeah.
I'm sure that's what it was.
It's a pretty cool, like little, it is basically like it's his last moments of life, I think. And like one of the characters you meet too is like the father of the son of the Deku Sproutling that died. There's a cool rabbit hole if you like look into that. I think I wrote something about it on the site at one point.
I remember seeing that. Like, there's these, the shadows standing on the left. I've definitely gone down this rabbit hole. I think all this stuff is ridiculous, of course, but it's interesting brain food, I suppose, when you're hungry.
Yeah.
Well, one of my favorites, and I never dove too far into it, but definitely like there was old forum threads, and I'm sure Reddit. But Shadow of the Colossus, like the rumored, like there's a 17th Colossus somewhere in the game, and people just kept finding new little secrets in the environment, and like they would break the game and jump out of the map and like find all these hidden areas, and everyone always thought there was like another Colossi, but
yeah.
Jacob Geller, enemy of the show, has a fantastic video breaking down the entire like internet history of
that's
hidden
great.
Colossi. It's amazing.
Maybe I watched that. Maybe that's one of the things.
We don't want to point people to that though, because he's an enemy of the show.
Yeah, enemy of the show.
Please do not go watch that.
Definitely no.
There's this is kind of dipping into spoiler territory for Shadow of the Colossus, so skip ahead 2 minutes if you don't want to hear it. But like that scene at the end where you die basically and you get turned into a baby, you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah, the end of Bloodborne.
I was basically very stupid when I played that game, and I did not get the connection that you were the baby. That's a lore tidbit that sort of changed my perspective on that game.
I need to go back and play the remake. Actually, I might like do that this summer. The newest one, because I haven't played it since the PS3 remaster, and so it's been a hot minute since I played Shadow of the Colossus.
I can't think of like a lore tidbit, but instead, can I just give a fun fact I recently learned about a game?
Sure.
The game Clock Tower 3. I'm sure we're all familiar. Capcom's premier franchise. The director of that game's cutscenes was Kenji Fukusaku, who most notably for people in the West and our audience directed Battle Royale. Isn't that interesting? One of the final things he directed before he passed away in like 2003. He was like 70 plus years old, and he directed all the cutscenes for that game, and they are bonkers. I recommend looking them up on YouTube.
Wait, are they live action cutscenes?
No, but they're all like mocapped and in his like very specific visual style. He has like a very cinema verite style. If you've ever seen like Battles Without Honor and Humanity, it kind of has that whole shaky cam thing.
Yeah.
And it's really surprising for a game that came out in like 2002 to have like such a strong visual element to its cutscenes. So I thought that was interesting.
That is a fun fact.
Thank you.
Cool. Very nice. All right. Next email comes in from Luke. They say, consider this scenario. You have been given the opportunity and enough money to make a game based on a movie. However, you must choose a movie from the last 10 years and a partner with a current B-tier developer, if that makes sense.
The B-tier developer.
The developer is sort of B-tier. So I guess that's left up to you.
I don't want to disrespect any devs.
Well,
Yeah,
that's
that's
the
what I'm
thing.
saying.
I will.
I feel a little rude doing this one, but we'll see what happens. So what movie do you choose and what developer do you guys partner with?
All right, I got it. Bloober team, and we do Midsummer. Okay, there you go. Done.
What's the game?
It's a movie, right? You take a movie, turn it into a game. It's a horror game. That's why I got Bloober team on it.
Yeah,
well, you're
but
making a game based off the movie.
Yeah.
are you just walking around the camp?
I
It's
think
obviously going to be based on it's the same setting as the movie, but we're going to look at other experiences. So,
Oh,
they have the whole cult compound, I guess, in that. So we would not be handling the main story crew from the movie. We would be handling maybe a different year, a different time of thing. So we'd get the same source material, but we'd have to get to look at it from a different angle and perspective, different group of tortured people who are going to go down to this horrible daytime horror experience.
that's cool. I'm into that.
I've got a great one. I'm excited about this one. And I want to say the dev is in B tier. I love their games, but they aren't AAA. So that's kind of where I'm coming at with this. And also they've been absorbed by Valve, but Campo Santo, let's let them come back as themselves. They're going to make either a prequel or a sequel to Parasite, wherein you're walking around the house that the events of Parasite takes place in, and sort of a walking sim mystery game where you're uncovering like kind of the lineage of this house and the people that have inhabited it.
That'd be kind of fun for like the Gone Home team.
Yeah. Not Tacoma.
Tacoma.
Fulbright.
Yeah.
That'd be great too.
That's a good idea. I feel like Christopher Nolan's movies would be good for like making games for some reason. I think Interstellar for some reason would be cool. I don't know who would be on that. Do you guys have any? I was thinking like, does Bethesda count as a B tier studio these days after Fallout 76? But they could. Maybe that's what I want Starfield to be, some kind of like Interstellar style game, or like Tenant could be cool. Maybe some weird like time rewind stuff, like a side scrolling action game, but then you play half of it. Oh, so you should like Jonathan Braid.
What about
Jonathan Blow? Like Braid.
Jonathan.
What about Remedy?
Oh,
That's a good one.
yeah, that's not bad.
If
You're
Bethesda's-
calling out Remedy being B tier? Is that what's happening right now?
when I'm thinking B tier, I'm thinking AA. You know,
okay.
I'm not thinking like crappy. I'm thinking not as well funded as a Naughty Dog or whatever.
Oh, sure. They're still a great developer. They just don't have the money, maybe.
Yeah, that's kind of my interpretation.
I got it. I'm ready.
That Remedy is a great pick for like an Interstellar or any. I mean, they got the time stuff, the weird. They've got all that down. So give it to them.
You got one, Blake?
I'm ready. Oh wait, it's a movie from the last 10 years, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Oh,
What is it, Taxi
crap.
Driver? Is that what you're thinking?
Gotta play by the rules.
No, hold on. Oh, it's 11 years old. That's
What's that?
so
Out of the running.
late.
It's close enough, you know.
No,
Okay,
no,
close
it's not.
No? Okay. Tell me what it was, and then come up with one that's actually in 10 years.
I was gonna do 13 Assassins by Ninja Theory.
But that doesn't count. It's 11 years.
I know.
Well, you could do Hellblade.
What?
Hellblade.
Hellblade's not a movie.
Yeah,
this is
you
getting
got me there.
complicated
You got to make it into a movie first.
I'd make it a little better. That game was too long for what it was doing.
I was thinking Revenant too. Remember the movie Revenant?
Oh yeah.
That'd be really cool.
It's just one big bear fight. Is that
I
what
think-
you're going for here?
Well, I think that story would have been more interesting if you were playing it, right? Because it's kind of just torture porn at this point.
Oh, you know.
And there's things about it I liked, but get like Undead Labs or something on there to create a survival game, basically.
This is too on the nose, but I was gonna say, give Revenant to Hinterland Studio. They did The Long Dark, But it's kind of like that's kind of probably too on the nose. They've kind of made their own Revenant game. But
what about a John Wick game? Made
We did it. It already happened.
nobody
make that game.
Nobody played that. What about a John Wick game made again by Remedy?
there's a trend here I'm
bad.
sensing.
Yeah, I'll take
They
it.
bring back bullet time from Max Payne because John Wick moves so fast. You're not pulling that off in a game. If you didn't have the bullet time, it'd be one of those cases where the cutscenes are always cooler than the actual gameplay. But you bring in bullet time, you get to do all the John Wick moves. Remedy has an amazing visual styling, which is the strongest part of John Wick, is the visuals, definitely not the story. And you just let you run loose in that world, killing dudes, going to town.
Have you played Pistol Whip, Blake?
No, I really want to, though. I don't have any VR setups at my home.
That's probably
is that on?
play it.
Is that on PlayStation VR?
I don't know. I know it's definitely on the Oculus Store. and
I've been
Steam.
I've been considering if they do a new PS VR, finally investing in it.
Yeah, it's definitely. I keep calling it the better John Wick game because there was an actual John Wick game, but like Pistol Whip, you feel like John Wick when you're playing it. Which actually, it's a good segue into our next email. Ian from Nottingham, UK writes in, I've been an avid Xbox gamer for 20 years, and I've enjoyed listening to your podcast for the latest news and reviews. So congrats, guys. Last week, I bought an Oculus Quest 2, and my mind is blown. Congrats, Ian. It's been a complete revelation, and it seems like it shows the future of gaming. It's easily the best £300 I've spent on entertainment. So my questions are, what are your favorite VR games outside of Half-Life? And why don't you cover more VR content on your show? That feels like an attack, Ian.
Interesting.
Yeah, what are you,
He's
what are you
asking
saying,
you a
Ian?
question, Ben. He's asking you a question.
That's
I think
true.
the man deserves an answer.
That's true.
Because
I don't-
Leo left Game Informer, didn't he do most of it for us?
Yeah, Leo did a bunch. I like VR. I have a VR set up. I actually don't know. I know, Blake, you don't. Do Alex
do.
or you or Dan? Do you guys play VR much?
I have no interest in current gen VR. Someday I will embrace VR or AR or whatever new integrated game experience exists, but I've got zero interest in this current availability of VR.
That's
The only time I've ever done VR was when I was an intern at Game Informer, which was 5 years ago, like almost exactly. And at the time, you all had the setup there. And like what was out was mainly just like tiny vignettes or little experiences you could do. And one of them that we did, my intern group, was just you're at the bottom of the ocean on a like sunken ship.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And a blue whale swims past you, and that's it. It lasts like a minute and a half, and it is still one of the wildest experiences of my life. And I haven't played anything else to like, experience Half-Life Alyx or whatever.
Yeah.
But like that always stands out as just a wild moment of understanding the scale of a blue whale and getting to experience it in a safe setting. Because I'm not going to the bottom of the ocean. I'm not James Cameron. You got me messed up. So dude, that was rad. I still love that top moment. And we made AJ Moser do it, who's very scared of whales, and his knees buckled, and we got to laugh a lot at him.
Oh,
it was
that's
really
amazing.
funny.
That's great. Yeah, if you want to continue with that nautical theme, and another game that plays with scale, there's a game called The Fisherman's Tale. You are basically this doll fisherman figure in this model lighthouse display, and you're sitting inside a lighthouse that's the exact model of the model you're in, if that makes sense. So it's kind of like that game Maquette that came out a couple months ago, but it's in VR. So it's like a world within a world. And it's cool to explore that kind of system and game in VR because you're walking around, you do things, and you can drop them into the model and they get, big in your world. It's another cool exploration of that. And I maybe even liked it more than Maquette, honestly. So that's worth checking out. We mentioned Pistol Whip, which is another great game. I want to bring up The Climb too. Have you guys played The Climb? The Climb's really
climbing
cool.
game, right?
Yeah. And it sounds like I'm not crazy about climbing. I guess I did it a lot when I was 8. Maybe I would climb up every tree I saw. but now that I'm heavier, it isn't as fun. So like the climb's cool because it simulates climbing. You're like going under overhangs. You're doing like 45-degree climbs and stuff you just couldn't do in real life.
That's cool.
Or that I couldn't do in real life. So, but it's crazy how much it feels like you're actually climbing a mountain.
Wow.
Yeah.
They do a good job with that one.
I'm in a weird spot with VR where I own VR, but I always struggled with getting it set up in my room. Like I've done it a handful of times and I really enjoyed it, but I felt like I was always like hitting the bounds of my room, unfortunately, because I was in a smaller space. But I've played a few VR games that I really enjoyed. Half-Life Alyx is at the top of that list. But I can tell you what I have wish listed. There's a couple of standouts that I think if I had better room, and I actually do in my new apartment, so I'm excited to try them. But The Walking Dead Saints and Sinners, weirdly enough, I heard got really good reviews for how it utilizes VR design and just kind of like how you are interacting with, the mechanics of that world. One I really enjoyed, Super Hot VR. That's like an obvious one, along with Beat Saber. Like those are fan favorites, and I think those are on Oculus Quest as well. And then a couple other ones. Covert Ops is a really cool one. I think it's called Covert Ops. You are on a canoe.
Oh, Phantom Covert Ops.
Phantom Covert Ops. There you go. Yeah, you're on a canoe and kind of wading through, these swamps, and you've got like your sniper rifle, and you're kind of under, the guise of night, and so you are like rowing along with your kayak and staying stealthy. It's a military game, and then at the same time, taking pot shots at dudes from the dark. And
the villain in that game is David Hayter.
Yeah,
Solid Snake, which is kind of fun.
So that's a cool one. And then one I want to try really bad. This will be my last one. And Ben, maybe you've played it, Asgard's Wrath.
I have played it a little bit. It's kind of roguelike-y, right?
I was thinking of the one where you are playing a giant, like you're playing as the gods controlling.
Oh, you're right. I'm thinking of something else. Yeah, the one where you're playing, I think I did play that in a demo at one point. So you're a giant, but you can shrink down.
Yeah.
Yeah, that one's cool.
Yeah. But
very interested in Super Hot VR, and to change my answer from the previous question, a John Wick game made by that team. Thank you.
Perfect.
That is a good one. Yeah, Super Hot's great. It is cool because it's a different game in VR. So if you played it on PC, it's a slightly different experience because the levels are different, and just like the experience of doing it in VR changes it quite a bit as well.
Wow.
So definitely worth it. And then to answer your other question, Ian, why don't we cover VR content more on the show? I think we would like to. It just kind of feels like the market isn't quite there. Kind of to Tack's point, he's like not that interested in this generation of VR. I think the tech has a little ways to go to get a little bit better. That will make the experiences better. And then hopefully as the, as VR builds more fans, then there'll be more of an opportunity to talk about cool stuff. I would love to see more Half-Life Alyxes.
I think there'll be
go
ahead, Blake.
It's like a barrier to entry thing too for some people. Like media people don't make a ton of money, so the idea of me dropping several grand on that, is just like it's unrealistic.
Yeah.
So
I mean, you can
keeps me
actually
from doing it.
Hear a little bit more about that later on in the show when I talk to Justin Roiland, because we talk about the development of VR. They made Trover Saves the Universe, and he talks a little bit about it's actually kind of hard to get a game funded in VR these days, like a really just dedicated, awesome VR experience. So that's why it's all indie, small team stuff right now.
Wow.
Yeah, I think maybe we'll see a second wave with whatever, because didn't Sony announce they're working on their next iteration of PSVR for the PlayStation 5?
I don't know if they announced it. I think it was
leaks or something, rumors.
Yeah.
Yeah. I thought they mentioned it, but maybe not. But if that comes out, then I think we'll probably see another small wave. I don't think it's going to change the current perception of VR, but I think we'll definitely get another wave of games with that, and hopefully some bigger experiences.
And Blake, are you going to buy an Oculus headset when Resident Evil 4 comes out?
No.
You can come over to my house, Blake.
Unfortunately not, because I am not joining Facebook just to play Resident Evil 4,
Oh, that's another barrier to entry.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Forgot about that.
Yeah.
So that's actually a bigger hang up for you than spending the $300?
Absolutely. Yeah. 100%.
Yeah, it is a bummer. Yeah, I have to have a Facebook account to basically play their games. It's kind of I don't know, Facebook. Come on. We know
Feels
what you're doing.
feels a little
You want our
gross.
details. I get it. It is gross.
Yeah.
All right, what a bummer. What do we do? All right.
Sorry, just
I
to
hope you
circle
enjoyed
back
the
to it.
email.
That announcement was so rad, and I thought it was so cool, and that just like completely took the wind out of my sails. I was like, okay, I guess I'll never play probably the coolest version of one of my favorite games of all time. That's
Well, maybe
so lame.
like Alex was saying, if that
yeah,
stuff
yeah.
comes to PlayStation, maybe they'll port it over to PlayStation, which would be cool.
Yeah.
All right, B from New Hampshire writes in and says, I've heard people talk about real life skills they gained or improved by playing video games, but I haven't heard anybody talk about real life skills that make them better at video games. Does that make sense? Like sometimes you play a game, you're like, oh, I think this may be better at hand coordination, but do people talk about it in reverse where you have a skill that makes you better at playing that game? So for example, Beat Saber levels that require independent hand coordination made me wonder if my years playing piano and developing my ambidextry helped me out. I imagine somebody who owns a drum or is good at drumming would be better off playing games like Rock Band. So it's another good example. What about you guys? Do you guys feel like you have any just like really good talents in real life that make you better at games?
Sure. Specifically in the MMO space, real life negotiation, mediation, and, negotiating tense scenarios between individuals and sort of coming to a successful resolution. Very helpful in those early days of World of Warcraft with guild politics and handling all that stuff. And I think that goes both ways. If you're in one of those MMO things, you can actually learn a lot about interacting with other people in positive ways. And vice versa. I think you can take that into a scenario where people are arguing about the dumbest stuff you could ever think of, but you still can come out with at an officer level in the guild, you can come out with a way that everybody's happy at the end of the day. Something like that.
I feel like in my experience, I've had the opposite. Like I've been playing guitar for like 14 years now, and I'm fairly competent at it. I can do, pretty complex like finger picking and stuff. But you give me a Rock Band controller and or like a Guitar Heroes controller, and I'm trash for whatever reason. I think there's I feel like there's always, and maybe I just didn't tune my instrument right, but I always felt like there was like just the slightest like delay of like input latency or something that always made me feel like things were just like slightly off. And it always bothered me. Maybe I had a faulty guitar, or maybe I'm just bad at guitar in real life. Maybe that's the twist. But I always felt like I had the opposite experience of that, which is funny.
I think being just a brilliant person has really helped me out with puzzle games.
I
think just
your creative genius
skills. Yeah, exactly.
Don't you have a whole paragraph in your Resident Evil review about how a puzzle stumped you?
Yeah, but that's because that was Puzzle for Dumb People, and I'm just
love it.
Interesting.
Hey, Alex, did you get a chance to mess around with xCloud much yet? Or Dan, have you messed around with xCloud?
Sorry. My iPhone, I think there's something wrong with my iPhone, and I have not been able to get it to work. I'm in a beta version of iOS, and I think it has messed with my iPhone.
Sure. Well, we'll see how we can answer this next email from Jay. He writes in, he says, guys, it's an amazing time to be a gamer. Currently, I'm playing MLB The Show via xCloud on my tablet. So I'm playing a Sony-made and published game for no additional cost on Microsoft's cloud gaming service on launch, which is crazy. I'm waiting on my RTX 3080 to arrive, so
nice.
I'm enjoying xCloud. Just taking a break from Halo 5 to play some baseball. Any of you guys use or play / like xCloud? The connection on Halo 5 is good enough for single players, so I forget I'm streaming. Well, that's cool. Glad to hear you're having fun, Jay. I have messed around with xCloud a bit. I messed around with it on my tablet and my computer, and my internet is just not quite good enough. But I know my internet at home is not good, so I think that's probably a problem
Yeah.
on mine more than anything else.
I will say I haven't played xCloud, but I've had a lot of experience recently doing Xbox remote play. And I know that's totally different, but I swear that whatever they do to make remote play happen on the Xbox is far superior, in my opinion, than anything I've experienced on other consoles, particularly like the PlayStation remote play. For whatever reason, and my internet is, my internet's decent, but it's not, amazing in terms of like Wi-Fi. And I've had a very good experience playing. I've mostly been playing slower games, but I've been playing Yakuza Like a Dragon via remote play to my phone, and that's been great. So I'm really excited to, once I can figure out what's going on with my iPhone, to dive into xCloud.
Yeah,
because that's like the next level of that, So
right. Yeah, exactly. And I've had this thing is I've played around with Stadia a bit. I'm one of those fools, and I played a little bit of Cyberpunk on Stadia, and I was actually pretty impressed with how it ran on my home internet. But xCloud doesn't seem quite as refined yet, but it's still in beta, to be fair. So it's cool that the technology even works. And I think I'm with you, Alex, where it works better on my console for some reason.
I played a bit of Hitman on Switch when they put that on there through cloud streaming. And it was, Hitman, you can play pretty slowly. So that probably helps, but it was a novel and competent way to play that game. I wouldn't prefer it over PS5 or whatever, but like if you have the means or if you have a Switch and don't have like another machine to play that game, like it's a totally cool way to play it, and it works fine.
I need to try that. Didn't they do something in Japan with Resident Evil? And
Resident Evil 7,
yeah. That never came to the West, right?
No, it didn't. Control and Hitman are the ones I believe that are in the West. There might be more. I don't know off the top of my head, but those.
I know it's not xCloud, but like we're in that realm right now, so I want to try those out, those versions.
Yeah, for sure. I just love the idea of like they have giant servers out there that can run games at peak optimization, and we could experience that theoretically. So I don't have to buy, what he said he was buying a RTX 3080, which, hey, that's great that you're able to find one, but they're kind of hard to find these days. So it's nice for people like me who don't want to spend that much money on a graphics card.
Yeah, exactly. And before we wrap up and go to the next question, I will say I've had great experience using GeForce Now. I was on vacation a year or so ago. Maybe less than that, actually. I went up to like a lake house with my wife, or a mountain cabin rather, with my wife. And we were just like spent the weekend up at this house and just chilled. And I brought my really, really crappy laptop that can hardly run like Photoshop. And I streamed to it with GeForce Now, and I played Rust from like the mountain cabin. Awesome. Very cool.
Nice.
Yeah. So big fan of that service.
Awesome. Cool. Well, that's a good breakdown. All right. That actually brings us to the end of our email section and to a little section I like to call Get Wrecked, everybody. So that's where we recommend some things to check out on the site. I want to recommend, there's a little game called Hood, Outlaws, and Legends, which we haven't talked about on the show much. And also we might not too much because it does look like it's great. Dan, you played a little bit of that, didn't you?
We did an NGT on it, and I have dived into it a little bit more after that as well. Do we want to talk about this game? Is this a secret transition to talk about this game? What are we doing?
No. I was actually going to recommend, like, if you are interested in that game, because we haven't checked it out, we haven't covered it much, you can go to gameform.com and watch our new gameplay today on it. We did a little stream where we play the game, like you and Marcus and Alex and Leanna, I believe.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
It seems like you guys were having fun, but the game is maybe could use a little more polish, is I guess what it was.
I think that's a really tough game to dive into from a new gameplay today perspective, where everybody has no idea. This is a very team. To be honest, I don't think the game is going to do very well. It's so team focused. Like, you need to be playing with a consistent group that everybody knows what they're doing, and it's like small scale team PvE, PvP warfare. It's very focused at what it is. Very niche, I think.
I guess, to back up too, it's like a medieval Robin Hood style game where you're playing team-based play, and it's kind of like a heist game. Is that my understanding?
Yeah, it's very like stealthy and skill based, and basically you're fighting another team to get the treasure out. So think of it kind of like Division's Dark Zone against one other team. And there's a PvE element as well with like some really, like the sheriff is just this big jack dude that'll just kill you in one shot. It's pretty cool. But you got to get the treasure, and basically you're fighting the other team to get that treasure. And there's a lot of backstabbing. There's a lot of like team play. There's a lot of coordination. And obviously in that new gameplay today, you can laugh at us as we like, kill each other on gates and do all kinds of stuff. Any noob starting that game would do, really. Yeah. It's like I said, there's a lot going on in that game.
Well, yeah, check out that new gameplay today if you think that sounds up your alley. But otherwise, Dan, do you have anything else to?
Yeah, get wrecked. My favorite segment. Anyway, there's tons of stuff on the site that I'd check out. But gosh, maybe the new gameplay today for Scarlet Nexus. If you want to see some footage for that game, I would check that out. Or hey, I'm going to do it again. Go read my Returnal review. Returnal is really good stuff. Really, really good stuff.
Awesome. Cool. Alex.
Yeah, I'm going to talk about a video that I didn't work on, but Blake and Alex Stadnick did. It is looking back at 25 years of Resident Evil. It's like a 20 minute long video looking back at the original Resident Evil 4, 7, and a little bit of Village. And they're just kind of like talk about what makes that series special and some of the some interesting insights into how it was made from, quotes from, Shinji Mikami and such. And very cool video. We actually took a magazine feature from a few months back and kind of morphed it into a video essay style. And it's turned out really, really good. So go check that out.
Oh, thank you so much.
Mm-hmm. Blake, what about you? He stole your recommendation, so.
Do what?
Alex stole your recommendation, so
no. But I'm gonna keep that Resident Evil train rolling, baby. Myself, Dan Tech, Ben Rees, Liana Rupert, Kimberly Wallace, and special guest Suriel Vasquez of MinMax did a Resident Evil 8 spoiler cast, which is on the website, in the podcast feed, and on YouTube. Triple threat of ways to experience this. So I recommend you play the game and then check that out, because it was a very fun time.
I'm looking forward to listening to it.
Please play the game first, because we spoil pretty much
everything.
Yeah.
I'm like halfway through, and I'm like just chugging along because I'm like, I have to listen to this. I got to hear all the takes.
If you're at the halfway point, that's when the game stops being scary. So you're good now.
Yeah, right. Well, I'm just before I should be able to finish it by this weekend, so I'm excited.
Hell yeah.
Great. Well, thanks everybody for being on the show. Thank you out there for watching or listening. Please stick around for that Justin Roiland interview. Otherwise, we'll see you all next week. Bye. All right, welcome back, everybody. I'm still here. I have a very special guest with us today. Voice actor / animator / writer / producer, wears a lot of hats. Justin Roiland, co-creator of Rick and Morty. He's also the founder of Squanch Games, who made Trover Saves the Universe. How's it going, Justin?
Good. How are you?
Yeah, welcome.
Nice to meet you, Ben.
Is that a proper kickoff? What do you refer to yourself these days? Entrepreneur?
I don't know. Creator of things? I don't know. I'm all over the place.
Yeah.
Game studio, TV, art. I'm trying to do a robot. So, who
a real life robot?
Like a toy, like a mass-produced kind of toy robot thing. So yeah, it's just I'm all over. And then there'll probably be some other weird thing that I get myself tied up in because
I can't do whatever. Well, yeah, I mean, you've seems like you have a pretty cush career there creating hit TV shows, but what made you want to get into games then? Like you can do whatever you want. Why video games?
The truth, I've been a gamer my whole life, like really intense, like the kind of gamer that will spend 14 days waking up at 6 p.m., playing the game until 6 a.m., going to sleep, waking up at 6 p.m., and doing that for 7 days straight. Like, I mean, that kind of a gamer. I've been that way my whole life, off and on, right? When I'm busy, I can't play games. But when a game really hooks me, I will, and I have the time to do that, that's what I'll do. And but I never thought to start a studio. I just was a consumer or a fan, and I'd read all the blogs at IGN, that was my, like, just Polygon. Well, back in the day before Polygon was Joystick with Justin McElroy and Ludwig, and is it Ludwig? Whatever, all those guys, Chris, I think. But anyway, so like I was obsessed with the games journalism. I was obsessed with video games. I was obsessed with the anticipation of the next big thing, the next big release, the announce, the cool consoles. I'm a huge handheld guy. But anyway, the thing that got me to sort of the switch that flipped in my brain to start a studio was VR. That was the catalyst, right? Was VR.
What was it about VR? You were like, you already loved games, but VR is so much cooler.
No, well, it felt more accessible. It felt more like the Wild West. It felt like more innovation was sitting there waiting to be achieved, I guess. Like it felt like look, like I looked at, like, look, there's so much good, like traditional gaming. I call it traditional gaming. It's flat screen, PC monitor, handheld or TV gaming. That stuff is like, there's just so much good stuff. There's so many amazing fucking studios, like both AAA and indie. And I think for some reason I saw VR as like the Wild West. It was like, holy shit. And my brain just clicked with it. I don't know, for some reason, something about it, like I got an early vibe. I mean, look, I had the Oculus, DK1, I was on that Kickstarter immediately. My mind was, I was like, oh my God, are you kidding? I was so sold. And like Cliff Bleszinski and Gabe Newell and all these people it's like, hey, this is legit, like I'm doing this. And then it wasn't until I got the Vive, and Chet Falasek gave me an early like kit, like probably 8 months before it went live, So
how do you know Chet? Were you like hanging out at Valve? Like what?
Yeah. Yeah, I went to Valve just to go, because like, I mean, why wouldn't I was like,
sure,
I have the opportunity to go to Valve, and it happened to be, I planned the trip, right, and then I find out the weekend before my trip that they literally announced the Vive publicly, and the HTC Vive, whatever, the first one, right, and I'm just like, are you kidding me? I'm going there next weekend. Like I'm going to get to see this thing. You know what I mean? It was such a weird, crazy coincidence. So I'm going there anyways, but yeah. So then Chet like demonstrates it for me and thoroughly just, I mean, I don't even know how to describe it.
Sure.
Like I just broke my brain in a way, or it just like opened my brain to, all I could think of was,
what did they show you first? Was it the whale thing, that whale demo?
Yeah. The classic sequence. It was like, it was the Alchemy Labs, level of job simulator. I'm pretty sure it was the Office level. The whale, the from oh God, I know their name. I don't know if they're even around anymore, but those guys that I met with them too. I mean, and a couple of others, but like it was just. All I could think of was all of the stuff I would want to do in this space, in this medium, from a creative standpoint. I'm thinking I want to do characters. I want to do worlds where there's characters that are very aware of what you're doing, that are very, like, I wanted more NPCs that are like really high level narrative design, but also really fun, like puzzle mechanics and game, and just classic, fun gameplay, but within this VR space. But anyway, so that's when I started like, seeking out like, how can I do this? Like I don't know. I'm not a game developer. Like I have all these ideas. So I just started designing on paper. Like Chet sent me the kit. I hooked it up to my PC, upgraded my PC, set up a whole room. And that whole summer, and we had a break between seasons 2 and 3 that I begged for a 2-month break.
Of Rick and Morty?
Yeah, Rick and Morty. And I begged for a 2-month break, and I used that break mostly to just like, develop, or just on paper, design VR concept, go in VR, test out, connect with people that are making stuff. Like I connected with William Pugh from Stanley Parable, Crows, became buddies with him. He and I were talking and philosophically about like locomotion and all these like just different like issues in VR, like VR sickness and all these kind of fun things. I just became obsessed. Yeah.
How are you reaching out to these people? Did Valve hook you up with some contacts, or did you just reach out blindly and say, hey, you might be familiar with my work? Like, would you like to help me out?
So Valve, Chet connected me with the Stress Level Zero guys, connected me with the Alchemy Lab guys. So Alex Schwartz at the time, Chet connected me with a lot of really amazing people that were just incredibly like open arms, just awesome people. Like, and I got to go meet them. And by the way, that's how the virtual reality game came to be. You know, all this really cool stuff came to be. Getting to just meet the Stress Level Zero guys and like going to their offices, talking to them, like, you know, just to like brainstorming, all kinds of fun stuff. And then there was other weird stuff like with William. That's a whole other story that's like just bizarre and crazy. But I met him on Twitter. It's a longer story, but it's very funny. But we ended up really connecting and clicking, and that led to Accounting Plus, or Accounting and then Accounting Plus. But so that was sort of all of the VR stuff was my kind of entry point into games. And then obviously met Tanya Watson, who incredible human being, incredibly knowledgeable. And we partnered up, and through her, I was able to have the infrastructure and sort of the knowledge of actually like game studio, you know, game director, game studio staffing, like all of that stuff. And we built an actual studio. We pitched this crazy game I had developed on paper, this really awesome game, pitched it all around. We had a lot of interest. And then of course, Sony was like, we're in, we want to do this. And so that became Trover Saves the Universe. And through that process, we built a full studio, made the game, made this amazing game. I really do believe the game is incredible. I'm so proud of it. And I really, I want to see more people get it. I want to see more people experience it, especially in VR, but also it's so good on the Switch. It's so good on Xbox, just on, you know, flat screen traditional. It plays great. It's a really fun puzzle game. It's hilarious. It's funny. Like, you're going to laugh a lot, and it's like just a really well-designed, you know, game.
Yeah.
It's got interesting, you know, design mechanics. It's very unique. And that's sort of what the marketing push is going to be. But ultimately what happened throughout that process was I started to realize towards the end of it, especially when we started making it a dual SKU, so VR, non-VR, right? You buy the game, you can play it both ways.
Well, so was it originally VR only? Was that the idea? Or
in the very beginning, yeah, in the first like maybe three or 4 months of development, it was like VR only. But what happened was we started noticing, you know, our designers and stuff are testing levels, and they're testing them on the flat screen, not in VR. We were doing both, but I would come in and I would see like they're playing on a gamepad, it's on a flat screen, and I'm just looking at that and I'm like, this is awesome. Like, this looks like it's playing. Like, if we tweak some stuff and like, you know, fix a few control issues, like this is like a game. Like, this is a traditional flat screen game, and it's working amazing, you know? So that was the big like epiphany of like, holy this could be a dual SKU. So we talked to Sony about it. They were super on board. I mean, obviously, like, why wouldn't they be? It's like, holy you know, it opens the door to a way higher install base potentially if we marketed it right, you know, which we didn't do. But anyway, so yeah, like, and then that triggered me into thinking like more about traditional games, and then my brain kind of started to open up, you know, because with the VR, my brain opened up to all these ideas and all these cool scenarios. And on paper, I have like 8 sketchbooks. I'm not kidding you. In those 2 months, it was between Solar Opposites and VR, but I filled 8 sketchbooks of content, and like full game design, full like, I mean, crazy shit. And for a bunch of different games, you know.
Well, how do you know what's an idea for a game and what's an idea for a TV show? Are those 2 different ideas in your mind?
They're just I had you know, those little like post-it note tabs with different colors that you can put on the page. Do you know what I'm talking about? It's like, it'll be like a green little tab or a, you know, and you can put. So at the very beginning of every sketchbook, I would do a key. So it'd be like green is Solar Opposites, red, you know, red is VR game design, you know, so on.
Sure, but even like conceptually, like what is is an idea that's a good idea for a TV show? Could that also work as a game? Or in your mind, is there some ideas that are better suited for video games and some ideas that are better
yeah,
suited
no.
for
There's
TV?
ideas that are way better because like TV is very, I want to call it a passive medium. It's like you want to bring it with really good storytelling that people can sit on their couch and just consume. And it needs to be really fast paced. Well, in my opinion, it needs to be, at the very least, you need really strong characters and you need really compelling, story and the pacing needs to be right. But it's passive, right? And a lot of the ideas that I was coming up with for game stuff, very interactive, very, very much like, not just like, the cool story, but like the adventure, the experience, the exploration, the inventory, the mechanics, like all of that stuff. Like, so they're very different things. And it was me just sort of in that headspace popping back and forth. Like, oh my God, like The Wall, for example, on Solar Opposites. It was like this epiphany I had during that time. And it was inspired by Bethesda's Fallout Shelter. Like, I was just like playing that game. I was on a weed edible, I'm not gonna lie, which makes me very paranoid, but whatever. It also makes me super creative. I'm not encouraging anybody to do it, by the way, because it's a nightmare for me, but I do cross over out of that hell into highly creative output. But like, yeah, I was like playing Fallout Shelter and then boom, like, holy shit, the kids, what if they had a wall of people and that, just the whole thing. And then Mike McMahon, my partner on Solar, just kicked it to like times 1,000, like this idea, like that I had this like very surface level idea. Like he like took it, him and Josh Bricel took it and just like and knocked it, way up. But anyway,
I'm sure that happens tons in games though too, where you'll have ideas and then like designer comes along and adds something to it and you're like, well, I can't even believe how good this is.
Absolutely. That's happening right now in the game we're developing right now, which is not a VR game. I can't talk too much about it, but it's we're in the middle of making something really, really special, really unique, and a bit maybe quite a bit bigger than Trover. And I guess that sort of gets to the point of like, going through Trover sort of opened my brain to traditional gaming. And I'm like, holy shit, I have this amazing, talented team. I have my own studio. Like, let's make, like, look, I love VR. I'm not like, I want to eventually get back to VR. The problem is I feel like right now is and I'm going to quote Alex Schwartz with this, but like, I feel like right now is an incredible time to make VR, but just nobody wants to give you the resources to do it. Nobody wants to give you you know what I mean? It's like, I could go pitch, 10 amazing, innovative VR games, and it's going to be like climbing Mount Everest to get the funding or to get the deal closed. So, and we
almost have to be somebody like Valve who's willing to invest a ton of money. Did you play Half-Life Alyx, by the way?
100%. Yeah. I mean,
yeah. So stuff like that's really exciting, but it's like, who's going to put that much money into a project?
Exactly.
Like
what it is you have to be a studio that has a good revenue stream, that isn't worried about your next deal and where's the money coming from to keep the studio going, all that kind of stuff. You have to break out of that hamster wheel. And a lot of studios have done it, and it's been really successful. It's like, you look at, I don't know, Psionic, that's an old example, but like, with Rocket League, or a more recent example could be, what's the one that everyone's freaking out about? I just was playing it, whatever. I have a bad memory, but there's games that like, a studio makes and it just blows the up. I mean, here's some dumb examples. Like look at Among Us, right? Or Fall Guys or whatever. It's like, that's a kind of game that's going to create a scenario where you as a studio can now just focus on your pure creative passion. And what do you want to do? Like, okay, you want to make crazy VR. You want to make a weird, crazy, like multiplayer, traditional game that's like super bizarre, that it's very hard to pitch to publishers and studios and platform holders because they're not quite seeing it, but you can see it. Like, it's good, like in your gut. And that's sort of the thing that we're, the goal for us is to break out of that, be able to like have enough revenue stream that we can start like going in those directions. Smaller swings, really cool and imaginative, bizarre, like, ideas for games. But what's great is once that switch got flipped in my head from VR to traditional, it was like a whole new world open to me. I'm very weird. Like, I don't think about stuff until I see that it's possible. Like I worked in reality TV for years, right? When I first started in LA, and all my ideas were reality TV ideas. Like every pitch, everything, it was all reality TV because that was the world I was in, you know? I wasn't thinking about animated, you know, half-hour comedies, you know, even though that was my, like, I love them and that was my dream. I wasn't thinking about that because that wasn't the world I was in. And so the second I kind of started making my own stuff on the nights and weekends with like House of Cosby's and all these weird like shorts for Channel 101, then my brain started to like, okay, holy shit, this is more viable and this is a real thing. And I can actually pursue this and kind of leave the reality TV, leave the reality TV stuff behind. But the same thing happened with my studio, with VR transitioning into traditional. It's like, holy shit, we have an amazing team. We can make anything. So let's make something badass in the traditional space. And, you know, look, I'm as excited about that stuff as I am about VR. I just do love VR. I play it every day. I have a Quest 2. I have an Index. Like, I'm obsessed with all of it. I'm like, I take notes with I'm like, oh my God, this is a really inventive mechanic. There's things I see that I'm like, oh, I want to prototype a different version of this that I think would be really cool. You know what I mean? Like, that's how I'm constantly thinking.
Sure. Well, I mean, you seem like kind of a busy guy. So how much of your time gets devoted to shows like Solar Opposites, and how much time do you get to devote to the games?
It's a hard question. It's like, I don't even know. I don't know the answer. You know, I'll say that like the game stuff right now is probably the lion's share of my time.
And you feel like you're pretty hands-on with all that stuff, like the minute stuff, like you're sitting down with designers going over things.
Yeah. I mean, so we have our directors, you know, my lead designer, my design director, my art director, you know, and then my COO, and yeah, like we're very, yeah, it's like every week, like we're in it, you know, and I don't want to get into too much detail about where we are with this particular project, but yeah, no, I'm very hands-on. I mean, this is very much my baby. I mean, same thing with Trover. It was like, you know, I had Trover mapped out on paper. Like I had, you know, like, look, I didn't know if it was going to work. I needed like awesome people to like come in and like help me prototype and like help me get the feel and help me like find it in like, you know, gray box, you know, sandbox, like test areas. But like I had on paper, like, you know, the Cheropian mechanics, the Trover mechanics, the warping between nodes, you know, the popping up and down, all like even down to the exact degree of rotation, how I wanted Trover to work, the upgrades that I wanted him to get throughout the game. Now, there's a lot of stuff that I didn't know, and there's a lot of stuff I learned, and there's a lot of cuts we had to make, and there was a lot of like, you know, just me being in awe of the team around me. You know, I'll never forget the first time like Eric Meyer, my design director, like puts me in a headset to show me like, hey, so we have a gray box of sort of, you know, the basics of, you know, the core functionality of how the game's going to work. And I was just like, it was such a overwhelmingly incredible experience to go in VR, to be in this thing that I had been imagining in my head and had drawn on paper, and had like my buddies, Andrew DeLang and Mike Chillian drawing concept art of, and like, you know, all this stuff up to that point, and to see it, you know, it just was like, it was insane.
And to interact with it, because you can interact with this creation you made in a way that you couldn't with like Rick and Morty, for example. You know, it's very more tangible.
That's a huge part of it, man. It's like being able to build a playtest, be able to see the iterative nature of like, you know, I'll update and go to a new build, and I'm just, I don't know, just like how much better it gets, you know, incrementally. And then of course, it always comes together at the last minute, right? It's like it's like a big pile of noodles all the way up until like maybe the last 2 months, and then it just like suddenly clicks all together, and it's just absolutely insane.
Yeah. But, and Trover, just to stick on Trover for a minute, like it's such a I played it. I think it is a very funny game. Nice work. But I don't think I played a game like that in the sense that it doesn't feel like there was a script for that game. I mean, I'm sure there was on some level, but it felt like you guys just walked into a studio and started riffing for like 20 hours.
Yeah, there's a lot of that. There was an overarching, like, narrative, Bible, I guess you'd call it, with like all the beats. And it was way detailed in the beginning, but then we had to make a lot of cuts because, scoping and budget and schedule and stuff. And then it was sort of like sewing those cuts, like removing a big chunk of flesh and then having to stitch together the gap and figure out narratively how to make that work. But yeah, like aside from the bigger picture stuff, like, no, absolutely. Like there's plenty of levels where we would map the level out. We sort of knew the general story. We knew the beats. And then I would go in to the booth and Spencer McCurran, the writer on the game, he would basically feed me the LPM lines or like the beats. And then I would just like riff. I'd be like, okay, I know, I remember. Okay, I know what needs to happen here. And I would know like the triggers. I would know, like every single little fork in like in the tree of the dialogue tree. And I would know, I basically knew it really well. So I was able to just go in and play with it. Some levels are way more like loose and improv, and other levels are a bit more like, like actually scripted and tight. But to me, like that's sort of part of what makes it so cool and what makes me so excited about it is the idea of doing that kind of stuff in this medium where it takes, years to create this thing and perfect it and make it perfect. And it's the same way I feel about animation. It's like, to me, it's so funny. Like with interdimensional cable, like I'll go in a booth and just record a bunch of nonsense and we're all laughing about how stupid it is. And then we edit those together and we give them to like these incredibly talented directors and artists. And then now they're storyboarding this absurd that I just spit out in like, 5 minutes and pouring all of this like love into it and the blood, sweat, and tears of animation into this absurdity. And there's something that's like kind of magical to me about that, because when you're watching it, you're just like, is this? Like, it's confusing because of that. It's like they put all this work into it, so it can't just be something that somebody just like out in 5 minutes. It's got to be like, you know what I mean? It's sort of like the antithesis of how stuff is supposed to be done when it's, you know what I mean? Like, but and so I wanted to take that philosophy a little bit into game design. I mean, our new game is way, way, way more locked down in terms of like, the big story is a bit more. I don't want to say Mass Effect because that's like really polished and really serious and not a comedy. But like, we've got a story that's like pretty, buttoned down, and it's very important and it's high stakes, and like we've got characters that we need to write up to and make sure they're not just a goofy, nonsense character.
But it's still a funny game. It's still like a comedy, I assume.
It's 100% yes, and we still want to have those moments of like Trover-esque insanity and silliness, because like that's what makes us excited and happy. I just say, for me, it's like, look, if the core gameplay is really good, which it is, and if it's like fun to play and the feel is there and like the world is intriguing and what's going on is kind of unique and interesting, I think that really opens the door for the writing to be a lot more loose and playful, and like, you can just have a lot more fun with it.
Yeah, I mean, you keep teasing this new game. Do you know when you'll actually debut it? People will get to see that one.
I can say nothing about it. Oh, yeah, I haven't. I can't say anything about it other than we're working on something that I'm really excited about. That's kind of all I can say.
That's cool. Well, yeah, going back to Trover. I mean, Trover was a fun game, like you said. It's cool that you could play it outside of VR, which I kind of played half and half, and I don't think people realized that you could play it outside of VR. It was definitely marketed as kind of a VR thing, but it felt like such a fun. Trying to talk about it without spoilers, obviously, but there's the scene where there's the comedian that you kind of build up to, and something happens, and it kind of surprised me. It just felt like that was that game in a nutshell, where you kind of set up an expectation and then try to surprise players. Was that something where you felt like you were even like trolling players to some degree because you were trying to turn normal video game conventions on their head?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like, I'm a lifelong gamer, so it was so fun to to play with, you know, traditional sort of gaming expectations and then just like flip them on their head, you know, like, yeah, like setting something up. And then I just feel like we're constantly, in a funny way, in a very entertaining way, the player, you know, and surprising them and like subverting the expectations, which, you know, that's not always a good thing. But I think in this game, it really is a fun thing. I like to stay ahead of the audience. I like to always like be a couple steps ahead of them so that they never are sitting there going, okay, I know where this is going. I'm already ahead of the game. Like I already know everything that's going to happen. And by the way, there's games that are like that narratively that are incredible when it comes to the gameplay and core mechanics. So I don't even care. But like for our game, I felt like that was important to just really stay ahead of the audience and just be surprising them at every turn. So they just never really know what to expect on this crazy adventure with this purple little guy and this crazy world that we built and the absurdity of the story and just all of it. You know, and you know, listen, you know, to date we've sold like 375,000 copies of Trover, which is nothing to sneeze at. I mean, you know, it didn't happen right away. It's one of those titles that feels like the little engine that could, or the little, what is it? The little train, the little, you know,
it's a little engine. Yeah.
Yeah. It reminds me of a huge hero of mine, Psychonauts, Tim Schafer. It's like, you know, that game wasn't a huge hit right out of the box, but it just kept chugging along. Like it just kept selling, and you know, I don't even know what year to date sales are on that game, but I'm sure if they achieved that within the first month, you know what I mean? It would have been like, holy shit. So I'm pretty proud of it, but I do think that the ceiling is just really high for adoption of the game, especially because it's on every single console like that exists. It's on all of them, including, you know, the Quest and Steam VR, as well as just Steam, you know, traditional monitor. So what, you know, when we celebrate the true anniversary on May 31st with Trover, we're hoping to like really, I don't know, we're hoping to like spread the word to like Rick and Morty fans, to Solar Opposite fans, and sort of be like, hey man, like this is, or lady, I use man like for everybody. Like I call some of my best like girlfriends I call man. But anyway, yeah, like we're hoping that it's like, you know, get the game, like check it out. I really don't think anybody will get it and not be, you know, entertained by it. There's so much fun, stupid stuff to discover, and just great moments of just like there's just like a lot of fun narrative design. Like we really, really, really were focused as a key pillar on really innovative narrative design. And I love that stuff.
And it's interesting to see, I mean, game development's super hard. So it's interesting to see now that you've made a game, you haven't been totally crushed by the process, and you're interested in making another one, which is interesting.
Oh man, I have too many games. Like that's the thing, is I had to, you know, like as the CEO now of the studio, so I have all these game ideas, and I had to just sort of say, okay, I've got all these game ideas. Like I wanted to do a second production, you know, concurrently with our current thing. And I just pulled back from it. I was like, okay, look, like, let's just focus on the main thing. I have all these ideas. We'll get to them. And the goal is, let's get a good revenue stream in, which I think is very doable. And once we have that, then yeah, these smaller swings, these fun, weird games that we want to make. And Nintendo is like such a huge, huge inspiration for me. Like I have such a Nintendo design philosophy, like, you know, like tutorials, like gamify your tutorials. Like I don't want to read a bunch of stuff and get bogged down with all this stuff and then have to play the game. I want to like experience the tutorial as I'm playing and learn. You know, that's a very Nintendo kind of philosophy. And
well, when you founded the studio, I believe you were called Squanch Tendo.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. I mean, that was like, you know, it was like it was between Squanchrosoft, Squanch Tendo, and Squanch Santo. And Squanch Santo was like, you know, what is that? We're like Monsanto. Like I cut that one pretty early. But Squanchrosoft made me laugh my ass off. Oh, Squanch Station was another one we were talking about. But no, Squanch Tendo made the most sense. But no, yeah, we pretty quickly changed it because we were like, look, we don't want any heat from Nintendo. You know what I mean? I don't want any, like, I love Nintendo. I like literally am the biggest Nintendo fan. I'm a collector of Nintendo games and consoles, and I absolutely adore Miyamoto. Like I would die to meet him one day, and even to just shake his hand or even to just be in the same room with him would be like insane. So yeah, I was like, we better change the name because I don't want to send the wrong signal to, some heroes of mine, to the people.
Yeah, no worries. Now you won't get sued, which is great. So you'll have all that money to pour into games instead.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, Justin, I know you got to get going here, so thanks for being on the show. Really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Nice to meet you, man.
Yeah, no
Thanks
problem. Come by anytime when you're ready to talk about that new game. We'd love to hear it.
Okay. Yeah. When once we release some sort of, announced trailer or something, I'd love to come on and chat with you about it.
Great.
Get your thoughts.
Well, thanks again, Justin. And thank you out there for watching and listening to this episode of the GI Show. Please like and subscribe or subscribe to the magazine. But whatever you do, come back next week. Game on.
Game on, people.